Hello and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Breakfast at Boom. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And as you can see, I have this big old cheese smile on my face because I got to tell you, folks, Xbox has taken over the airwaves in conversation, and they continue to just dominate what I believe is one of their best years in a very long time. Again, we go all the way back to where they stumbled a bit in 2022, where they didn't have any games. A lot of things got delayed. And then they've been on a streak. They've been on a run. 23 was amazing. 24 was better. 25 seems to just be fairy book tale level, games being released by first party. And then, of course, we got all the news. We have all the shows. We have developer directs. You have showcases. You have 12 games coming from first party. You have surprises still happening that are unannounced. And then, of course, we get all this information from Sarah Bond. Then you get AMD's Dr. Lisa Su to come in and drop some super big knowledge bombs. And I got to tell you, folks, this may sound slanderous, and maybe a little piece of me wants to say it like that. But does it seem like Xbox is leaving Sony behind? It sure does. Everything that Sony used to have, it seems like those are now on the table or on tap for Xbox, and Sony is sputtering. They have had failure after failure after failure. And again, folks, this is not console war rhetoric. This is just let's be adults. Let's put on the big boy pants and just read the room. The room is saying that Xbox is making some big strides to make next generation bigger and better than it's ever been. It's going to be PC level. It's not going to be a PC. It's going to be a box underneath your TV that looks and acts like an Xbox, but it's going to have PC capability. It's still an Xbox, folks. The handhelds that are coming out later this year are just tip of spear. And we're going to get down with everyone on this panel here to talk about their thoughts and theories as to where Xbox is going to be moving in the future. And quite frankly, that future is bright. And I think the most important thing, it's not just led by thoughts and theories and hardware. It is led by first-party games, something that they have been absent of for many, many years prior to this giant block of incredibleness, if you will. But let's get into the introductions. Korkenstein, welcome back, brother. I see that you shaved the beard. Holy matrimony! What's going on, dude? How you feeling?
Yeah, it's been a hot one over here in LA. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, I guess fortunately for you guys, when you guys came in last week for the all the events and everything, it was a lot cooler. The week before, it was like insanely hot. And I just got tired of it. I was just like, you know what? It's time. I need to go back. So, yep, it all went off. Yeah, I'm excited for this hardware stuff. It really shuts down that narrative that Xbox is leaving the hardware space. You don't sign multi-year deals with manufacturers if you're leaving the hardware space. So suck it.
I mean, again, it's funny that even after these two videos, and again, they're subtle, and we're gonna watch them together, and we're all gonna respond together and give our opinions on them. There are still camps that are trying to move the goalpost to win a narrative, folks. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you love PlayStation, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Be a PlayStation fan, but just don't be a a-hole or a troll or both. What arguments are you trying to win? What happened to the days of just playing games? Like right now, and I gotta give him a big shout out because this is incredible. Shout out to Elemental Pio in the chat. He DMs me yesterday. He goes, "Boom, I'm recommending a game to you that you have to check out because it was made by the legendary Yu Suzuki. It's a rail shooter. It's on sale on Xbox right now." I said, okay, let me go take a look at this. What is it called? Called Air Twister. And it is basically Space Harrier from Sega meeting Panzer Dragoon. And I bought it on the drop of a hat. It is wacky. It has Sega wackiness dripping all over it. Pause. And my God, please go check out this game. If you like Space Harrier, if you like Panzer Dragoon, and you like the weirdness that Sega was back in the Saturn days, this game might be for you. But again, Hargeet, normally you're not here, but you needed to come back in a big way because Wednesday, unfortunately, I had to leave. Mrs. Boom still not 100%, but she's getting there. We got a lot to get into. There is the again, we watched it. I want you to go and elaborate a little bit more into what Sarah Bond had to say. But the video yesterday from Dr. Lisa Su from AMD really, man, it does open up the door for what they're doing and how closely they're working together. And ultimately, it does seem, and again, this is just me spitballing here, folks, that when they said everything is going to be an Xbox and that OEM products are going to come back in a big way, it's not going to be just solely dependent on Xbox to sell their hardware. They're going to have there are going to be multiple manufacturers out there making Xbox consoles or even handhelds, and each one is going to be priced different. But I think that having that much hardware on the market does really open the door for getting more people to play their software, which ultimately will be everywhere. And I think it's safe to say that the market leader, that's going to change in a big way for next generation. And I believe that's going to be Xbox. Good morning, kind sir. How you feeling?
Yeah, doing well. I mean, just like more and more news, like every day, right? Just seems to come up from Xbox these days. So yeah, good stuff. We'll get into a lot of that. I think their vision is an interesting one, and we'll see how the market responds to it. But we'll see. We'll get into it.
Yeah, indeed we will. And folks, you see a black screen because I do have the Sarah Bond video paused, and we're going to play that in a second to open up the first half of the show. Second half is we're going to get into what AMD had to say about their strategic partnership, what that exactly means, and what we think it might actually do for Xbox and its players starting next generation, which could come as early as 2026. But hey, Fuzzy Belvedere, what's going on, bro? How you feeling? Welcome back.
Feeling great. Glad to be here with you guys. Yeah, there's been a lot of good news this year for Xbox. 2025 has been a banner year for the brand. And with their 25th anniversary next year, it looks like they got all the stars are starting to align for a really exciting 2026. So a lot to talk about today. Can't wait to get into it. Looking forward to this future hardware and stuff. And it's exciting times.
Indeed it is. And first of all, I want to welcome in 226 people already here. We're only 9 minutes into the show. A big thank you to everyone that has taken the time out of their busy Friday morning to hang out with us. Obviously, if you're already here, before we even get the festivities started, hit the like button. Share this out on social media if you're feeling super generous and you want to help out the channel grow. That'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not already subscribed, ladies and gentlemen, please consider subscribing to the channel. Again, it's free. It doesn't cost anything to be to subscribe to the channel. And we would greatly appreciate it because, again, we hit 16K. We're cruising along. Now it's we're hunting for 17, and we're always going to be hunt for the next big number. But that's what you have to do on YouTube, and we're going to continue to push that envelope. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this Sarah Bond conversation, which I believe to be a big part of what they're doing, folks. So here we go. I'm going to play it for you. Take a look.
At Xbox, our vision is for you to play the games you want with the people you want, anywhere you want. That's why we're investing in our next generation hardware lineup across console, handheld, PC, cloud, and accessories. I am thrilled to share we've established a strategic multi-year partnership with AMD to co-engineer silicon across a portfolio of devices, including our next generation Xbox consoles, in your living room and in your hands. Together with AMD, we are advancing the state of art in gaming silicon to deliver the next generation of graphics innovation to unlock a deeper level of visual quality and immersive gameplay and player experiences enhanced with the power of AI, all while maintaining compatibility with your existing library of Xbox games. This is all about building you a gaming platform that's always with you, so you can play the games you want across devices anywhere you want, delivering you an Xbox experience not locked to a single store or tied to one device. That's why we're working closely with the Windows team to ensure that Windows is the #1 platform for gaming. The next generation of Xbox is coming to life, and this is just the beginning. We can't wait to show you what's next.
And well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to stop that footage. I'm going to bring in some Call of Duty footage, which of course that is my absolutely favorite thing to play. And Korkenstein, let's bring you right in on this. Okay, so there were a lot of takeaways from what Sarah had to say. Ultimately, I think the most stout point was that they're making next-gen hardware. And if you, again, folks, this is probably now the, I don't know, 11th or 12th time that I've watched the video. She clearly says next-gen hardware, but she also says in what, again, it's only a minute and 18 seconds long. She specifically points out that they're making next-generation devices with an S. Now, I know I saw there was some rumbling that they were going to, oh no, they're going to do a Series X and S situation. Folks, I don't think that failed for them. That did not work for them. I think the Series S is an amazing little device. And as a matter of fact, it seems to really has garnered a bit of a following in the last couple of weeks since the release of the Switch 2, because again, there are now third-party developers making games for the lowest power, and that is the Switch 2. So that means that, the Series S really wasn't the bad guy. So when they pulled off the mask, it was Jim Ryan under there, not really the Series S, right? So that's good to know. But when she says devices, Korkenstein, I think it's safe to assume that what she meant, and, we eventually they will clarify this, it's going to be the big boy under the TV, which could, levy an $800 or $900 price point. And I believe, and this is just my personal opinion, I think a lot of people will agree with me on this, that the other one is the handheld. That they are actually coming out with their own handheld. Now, when is that? Is it 26? Is it 27? But we don't know. And I'm sure that next year we're going to find out a lot about what their plans are going to be. And I really do in my heart of heart believe that next year we're going to get these consoles. I just in my gizzard, so to speak, feel that that's going to happen. Could I be wrong? Probably. But I'm going to put myself out there and say, yeah, it works too perfect for celebrating your 25th anniversary. Why not have consoles on top of all of these amazing first-party games? That's just my thought. But I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you feel the same thing when she says devices and specifically points out playing at home and playing on the go? I don't know if you need a better suggestion to say, hey, we're making a home console and a handheld, but what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's great. This is something that they've been setting up for years now, since the Xbox Series S and X released. This is where I think the payoff is for them. I mean, it's beautiful because they introduced the Series S. People are like, oh no, like it's limiting developers and they make development so hard, but it's completely the opposite. What Xbox has done is put a SKU in there to make sure that now that people, developers can develop for the handheld even easier, because now they're already developing for a lower spec machine. They're already getting into an ecosystem with the GDK, where you're developing pretty much for under one development kit, but you're also developing for PC, for Series S, for Series X, for possibly handheld, things like that. So it's multifaceted here on how they did it and why the Series S is a big payoff for Xbox and developers. They're making it easier than ever for developers not to skip the platform, because if you're already developing for PC using the GDK, you're developing for everything else Xbox has, whether it's consoles, handheld, even cloud, it is what it is. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think people are just kind of moving the goalposts here, by saying it's not a traditional PC or it's not a traditional console. It's just a PC now. And it's like, who cares? You're getting your games where you want to play it, how you want to play it. and now you have access to all the greatest, to your whole library. It doesn't matter if it's a traditional console or a PC. It's going to play your games. What does it matter what you classify it as? It's just silly console war rhetoric. The shift of goalposts for engagement and clicks and all that. And it's pointless. These dudes play Twitter more than they play their actual games. Surprisingly, even though Xbox is now offering them anywhere you can play them, they still rather play Twitter than their own games. So it's just silly. I think this is such a good move. PlayStation's, they're kind of going, I think the Pro is a good move in the same situation to where they're setting up the Series S for, lower spec. PlayStation's doing the opposite. They're using the Pro to set up developers to start developing at a higher spec for PlayStation 6. I don't think PlayStation is done in that way. I think they're still going to have a pretty awesome console that's going to be pretty, powerful. Going to have a lot of stuff there. But I think what is really going to set everything apart is when you see those price differences. Now you're looking at, I can only play these PlayStation 6 games, here, but I'm looking at now, for probably roughly the same price. Let's just say $900. And you're just looking like, I just get access to PlayStation 6. But then you look over at Xbox and you're like, oh, wait, I get access to possibly Steam, to Epic Game Store. I get access to all my backwards compatibility Xbox games. I get access to my PC, Xbox PC games, my handheld games. I get access to xCloud. You're going to see the vast difference in what the machine can do and what it really offers to the player. And I think that's the winning strategy for Xbox. It's not about, these exclusives anymore. They weren't revenue generators. And they've never been. It's always been the live service. And, anyone that's watched me for the last 2 years on this show will know that, I've preached the same thing. Exclusives are not a revenue driver. Hardware really isn't a revenue driver either. It's just a way to access into the ecosystem. So when I say that, it's smart for Xbox to shift into a more consumer friendly on giving the consumer more power over how they play their games and what they want to do with it. And that will definitely set the catalyst. It's not about the hardware. It's about how customers interact and stay inside your ecosystem spending.
I mean, listen, great points of view. And, it's interesting, Hargeet. When I said the other day that I am not buying a PlayStation 6, I meant it. Because I'm not going to need to. And what Korkenstein literally just said is why. So again, do I know Sony's plans? I do not. But what I can suggest based on how traditional they are as a platform is, are they going to make the same kind of strides that Xbox does? Are they going to make the console an open source platform? The answer is they're not prepared for that. And do you know why that is? Because they don't even release their games, their first party games, day and date on PC. They are right now, ladies and gentlemen, whether this makes you angry, and it shouldn't, it's just games, folks. But if you're in your feels about what I'm about to say, maybe you need to play some more games. Because quite frankly, they're not prepared for what Xbox is going to drop next generation. And that could come as soon as next year. Right? Now, there is no doubt that the Xbox, if it is what we think it is, and it is this open source box, you're going to be able to play your Xbox games, your Steam library, your Good Old Games library, your Epic Game Store titles, and you're going to be able to play PC games that are only available on places like Steam. But you're also going to be able to play games that are on Steam from PlayStation. And there is going to come a point where, even though they're not there now, they're going to have to figure out how to get there. And I'm talking about Sony. Sony cannot and will no longer be dependent on releasing just on the platform known as the PlayStation whatever, whether that be 5 or 6. You know why? Because the PlayStation gamers do not line up to buy their software. And a perfect example of that is look what happened with Helldivers 2. An absolutely phenomenal game that if it would only have released on PlayStation 5, would have never seen the player number counts that it saw on Steam. That's an absolute fact. That is hashtag fact, ladies and gentlemen. So where does Sony go next? Only Sony knows. But what I can tell you is I don't think it's going to be in the same lane that Xbox is trucking down. And I got to be honest with you, just based on what Sarah Bond had to say, she opens up the conversation with you not being tied down to a single platform or store. That tells you that everything is going to be an Xbox. And you know what? You're going to be able to play your games and buy your games everywhere. I want you to kind of elaborate and kind of bring some of the community in, because there are people in the chat right now that are telling me that the handheld was canceled. But was it? Was it actually canceled, or was that a story from a journalist that might have gotten it wrong? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. So I mean, I don't know how true this is. What we're hearing is that essentially, to allow partners to do it, they couldn't have a competing device,
of course,
because it would have made it tough for the partners to do it. So
right.
They just held back and said, "Fine, you know what? That makes sense. We'll let you test the waters in this and see what happens. We'll see how that goes, and then if it makes sense in the future, we'll make our device." But it was supposedly pretty far along, and they had a device, and it was pretty good. But it's that competing with Aces. Like, hey, if we're gonna put out the ROG, Xbox Ally, then you need to like hold off on yours, because then that would
they could very well do. Yes,
and that's fine, because they're trying to establish a new thing, and that's fine, right? So it's like that's fair. But in the future, if it's open and it's MSI, it's Lenovo, it's whoever else or whatever wants to make one, then it's fine for them to do one as well, as long as they don't do something like undercut, right? Where they say,
right,
we'll take a hit of $300 on the hardware, and like all the others, of course, they can't do that, right? So they would have to come out at market value, right, and take that, well, whatever. But we'll see how that goes. There is work there. I don't know how they're gonna, what they're gonna do with it. Sarah certainly said devices like consoles, right? There's gonna be multiple. There's also what we got from, and I don't know when you want to get into the stuff from AMD. Maybe we'll do that later. That clarifies even more, right? But as far as what Sarah's saying, look, they responded to the markets like saying that they're leaving the console space. Sony had this little financial update thing, and they're like, well, it seems like Xbox is leaving and what would happen to competition? What do you think about that? Like, are you serious? Like,
yeah,
you're seriously saying all that?
Yes.
Okay. So fine, whatever. They clapped back and said, really? Check this out. And no, we're not leaving the console space. And again,
you made mention of that on Wednesday evening, and you didn't get a chance to elaborate because we did have to end the show rather abruptly. But I maybe you want to elaborate on that now.
Yeah. So
that meeting with Sony was weird. It was just it was just out of place. Strange.
Like normally you have a Q&A, like it's live, as like here's a question that comes in from sort of the shareholder audience, right, or the media, and they answer it, right, the best they can. Maybe some of it's staged, maybe some of it's like, I will accept this question specifically. Somebody can say that's a possibility. This was fully staged. Everything was all scripted, and you could see them reading the prompt, like really, what is going? It was so weird, and the questions they asked, like, okay, that was just an odd thing, but whatever. That's what they did. That's what they did. We did get a lot from them too. To your point of their mindset versus Xbox, their mindset is more the same. That's kind of what they're doing. They aren't really like advancing that to the next level to say, hey, maybe we should do day and date. Nope. We're continuing this pattern. We're also continuing to make more live games. Like, okay, all right. I mean, so far that hasn't really worked out, but okay. We'll see how that goes with Marathon and Fair Games, and then what happens after that. But if they want to continue to do that, they have Team LFG working on one. They have another studio working on one. Whatever that we'll see how that goes. But that's their plan. They want to continue with that. potential for multiple games a year will no longer be this, the thing they will do, right? They used to give you 3 or 4 games, usually a game a quarter. Now, I mean, maybe they do, but those games will be multiplayer live game attempts, which because they all kind of fail. And then you'll have the one game, and that's what they said. They'll have one game strategically placed, probably in the fall. That's their plan. One big game a year. I'm like, okay, fine. So that's kind of their plan. That's not what's happening with the other two, right? So the other two kind of keep putting out games. But fair enough. This is their plan. Right. I don't know if that's going to sustain the enthusiasm for that platform. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. They still have a huge brand. But as far as what Xbox is doing, they're saying, well, we have this thing called Windows. We have like literally a billion players. And why not just take advantage of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, we have the console. Cool. The entire purpose of Xbox's existence was to push Sony out of the taking over the living room, right? That was the whole thing that Sony was saying. PlayStation is going to take over the living room as the PC of the living room. And they're like, no, Windows. What are you doing? No, you can't do that. So they created Xbox. It started more as a console with very few things that came over from an OS perspective, but each gen they've added more Windowsy stuff in it. Right. So 360, you got the browser, you got the apps, right? You started having Netflix and all that stuff that they started adding in. With the Xbox One, they did even more where they unified it and said the app is actually the Xbox app is actually from Windows Store. So it's the Windows UWP app, right? So they made that switch, right? And then with the series consoles, they've pushed it so the development process is the same for Windows and for console. You're literally writing it to the same thing, and you can decide, yes, I want to put it on console or not, right? So it's the same. And then you are going to go further next gen with, say, we're going to add the ability for other stores, right? So underneath it, they've always had Windows, right? So it's always been there. They just stripped it down and made it just great for gaming, right? They'll strip it down to the point where it's just the stuff needed for gaming. If you're going to bring Windows gaming in, you might do a little bit to change that. But we'll see how they implement it, right? So, but that's kind of their path. Now, what they're looking at as far as just what Sarah said was, hey, we have multiple things in the works with AMD as a partner, and that is going to be kind of our world of Xbox, right? And how I'm seeing this is maybe a little different than everybody else. I see 2 different paths. One is sort of a console path, and one is sort of a Windows path. And we could see that become one and the same. That's viable. I still think they'll differentiate. There's going to be a console path, and that might still mean you have to pay for the stupid online, which will make less and less sense going forward. But I think they're going to keep trying that because it's just money. But they're going to have a console path where you won't be able to bring productivity, right? That was what I was kind of hinting at. You won't be able to run normal desktop UI. That will not happen. And then there'll be Windows where you can say, I want to emulate this as an Xbox, right? And I'll bring it more and more closer to what it looks like to be an Xbox. And Xbox will do a lot to make Windows feel like a console. But you can switch back. You can always switch back and say, I need to have the full desktop UI. Cool, you can do that. Whereas on the other side, I don't think that'll happen. I think they'll always just lock it away. So that's kind of my thoughts on what they're doing here. I don't know if you want to get into the AMD stuff because that clarified a lot of what their plans are.
Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to come back around to it because I want to play the video from Dr. Lisa Su so we can hear what she had to say. And then, of course, we will react to it. And then I believe, based just on the time factor, we may have time for an additional topic, which I am working on literally as everyone is speaking. But I did want to kind of focus on this.
But one thing I do want to mention is the timing. It is very interesting. Right after they announce in their showcase the ROG, right? That, hey, there's a new console. Here you go. They put this out like a week later.
1 week later, almost to the day. Yeah.
Why are they putting this out now? Right. And you just look at like the normal timelines of things. Usually the partnership is announced just about like 6 to 9 months before they actually announce a console. Okay, so I'm like, wait a minute, you already have a console announced. So are you ready to announce the next Series X replacement? So from a timing perspective, it could very well be that we're looking at a potential for a 2026 fall
console
release.
Yep.
And that might be the case. I'm not saying it will be, but it just normal
Timing-wise.
alignments.
Yeah.
This is what would happen, right? I would not be surprised if, you know, in the Game Awards, we see it
Yes.
announced. Or they haven't done it yet, but a Dev Direct could have, oh, by the way, here you go, right? So in January, we see it. Like, that is a possibility. Usually they do something March, April, and then, you know, they want to do it before the June showcase, right? So they can kind of clarify more. So that's usually when but it very well could be that they did, like they did the Series X, they could announce it at the Game Awards and then give you more in depth a few months down the road. It's a possibility that we get a 2026, 25 years of Xbox new console comes out. That'd be very, very interesting. The Windows side of it will also kind of coincide with that, right? So I don't know how far they are with the Windows 12, but that potentially could also happen, right? And they say, hey, we've got a new version of Windows coming out at the same time, and it has an Xbox mode, and it has, the new console with sort of a built-in Windowsy capability to allow the other stores. So these are interesting things that are happening with PlayStation. If they don't really compete with that, it could become an interesting problem for them down the road. Again, I think people at our age group will probably still sustain them. I don't know what happens with future gamers, though, when they see like, hey, I can just play this anywhere. I buy it once and I have it everywhere. Like, that's kind of what I really like. And hey, I just take it on my phone and it works. Okay, I play it on my TV, it works. Play it, I buy this box, it works. I buy my laptop, it works. I don't have to worry about entitlement and whatever.
Yep.
And my save just goes everywhere. Yeah, that's kind of a good world, right? Why do I have to not have that? And so that's kind of the world that they're trying to push, right? Whether they even buy it from their own store, right? Even if you buy it from Steam, they're saying, hey, why can't we get cross progression? Let's get your save in the cloud and everybody can access it no matter where they are, right? Whatever platform they choose, even if they want to go to a PlayStation, they can go ahead and download that same save, right? That is a cool thing that Xbox is pushing, right? And I think that's kind of the thing that they're going to have along with Game Pass. Not to mention showcases that keep showing you games after games after games, and all of them going into Game Pass, right? This enthusiasm gap is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. Like I'm how many years has it been since they've had like a B or higher showcase? It's like
I want to say, yeah,
like,
you know what, you can go you can go all the way back to, and like I said, maybe I depending on your liking of the show, I think we can go all the way back to what you said. 2021 was probably the last time that they had like
a showcase, right?
a subpar, like, oh wow, that really wasn't impressive.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad since then, and that's not me saying it. It's the Keeley, he puts out a poll right afterwards.
The polls, right? Those are official
and you
polls.
Can just see it.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody gets judged by the same set of people, and they do not seem to like those those showcases from PlayStation. So it is what it is, right? This is kind of the world they're in. I think it's kind of cool that Xbox is kind of opening it up and saying it's going to be an open platform, much more of a user-friendly thing. Now we'll see how the implementation goes. All of that matters, right? We have to see how the software does all this stuff, but we'll get there. And I think it's a pretty bold thing to just say we're partnering and we're doing this and it's going to happen, right? And they're just kind of making it wide open. I don't know how PlayStation responds. Do they think they're competing or not? I think they are. I think they're competing in a way that's very difficult for PlayStation to stay static. And as I've been saying, they have the opportunity to do the same thing. They can do the same bloody thing. They can work with Steam and say, how do I bring Steam and Proton over to the PlayStation 6? They could absolutely do that.
They could.
Right? It's up to them to decide to do it, but their mindset doesn't seem to have that, which is sad. Because I would rather they compete. That would be a better thing.
Which is
right?
based
Overall,
on that weird business meeting thing. It at least what I took out of it, not being console worry at all, is that they're going to be the traditional Sony that they've always been. That's what it sounded like to me. Again, the whole thing was weird to begin with. But
and I'll add one other thing, Boom. You said like you can play all the games from different stores. That's all true. But just like the current Xbox, you can open up dev mode and you can actually go ahead and emulate all the other games too.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuff's pretty easy to do, and it will continue to be available to you moving into the next gen. So you basically can play all the games that PlayStation can't on their own bloody console because they can't do the PS3 yet. And I don't know why that's been a barrier for them, but it's been a barrier. But you can play PS1, 2 games easily. You can emulate PS3 on PC right now. So it's viable that you can just have a box that plays all of the PlayStation games, plays all of the Xbox games, plays all the PC games, plays all the Nintendo games.
And plays them actually better than a certain big N. I'm just saying.
So you know, and they offer you portable, you know, landed under a TV, whatever you want. They're open to whatever you want, right? So if you want to build your own, have fun, right? The experience is the same for everyone, except I'll caveat the pieces that are going to be locked to this is just my theory, is the stuff that would be the back compat Xbox library. Because I think they need to call it an Xbox. So you'd have to buy a branded Xbox. And then the other one would be the accessories. If you have accessories using the Xbox specific connection path, that will only be on those devices that are called Xbox. But outside of that, you basically would have the same capabilities across whatever device you want to put together from PC Land, or you can buy one of these boxes and you get all the stuff with it. So very interesting times. But we will see what they, what they do at the PlayStation side. Nintendo, I think, is going to be an interesting one as well. We presume that they're just going to continue to sell well. I think they will. However, I think that the 150 million thing ain't going to happen again because the cost is too high. It's just too high. People can buy a with the
big difference between a $300 console and a $500 console.
Exactly, right?
So 2025,
and they usually do all these special edition ones when games come out, and if it's a couple $100, you're like, yeah, I'll do that, right? But if it's like $450, you're like, maybe not, maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I think that's gonna turn it down a bit. I don't think it's gonna be as big as it was before. But also, we have competition now. Right, it used to be that was it. Switch was the one, right? And now you have Steam Deck coming up. You have, Microsoft's really getting into this, and so you have a whole bunch of Windows ones out there. Steam OS being available on other platforms than Steam Deck, right? So this is going to be an interesting area where competition is going to drive what people want to do. Do they want to play at higher fidelities? Whatever, right? Do they want to have a larger library? Do they want the ability to have all these services like Game Pass, like EA Play Pro, etc., or do they want to be locked to Nintendo? These are all interesting because Nintendo still has their catalog, right? So it's going to be fun times, man.
Well, I mean, look, the one amazing advantage, ladies and gentlemen, of being the host is I prepare these shows, and I used to send my show notes that look like I was writing a college essay, and I was schooled very, very early off in my career by King David and Lord Cognito, two of my favorite humans on the planet. And they're like, "Boom, we love you, but your notes are ridiculous." So I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm going to send bullet points to the panel members, and I'm going to write the ridiculous essay college level stuff for me. And even when I do that, and the last couple of weeks have been super tough because Mrs. Boom has been a bit under the weather with these migraines, I forget stuff. And listening to paraprofessionals like Korkenstein and, of course, Hargichani, things roll in my mind. So, of course, I'm going to present the same conversation, but in a different way to Fuzzy. Because Fuzzy, we heard that the quote-unquote handheld was canceled, right? And we heard that, and again, I said this before, and I'll stand by it. When I hear Jez Corden do a report, or Tom Warren or Tom Henderson, even though I may not agree with some of their writings, I do trust the source. Those are three sources that I personally trust. Now, if you don't, I'm not going to fight you on it. Like who you like. But one of the things that came out of, the rumor mill, so to speak, was that the Xbox, or the next set of Xboxes, one was going to be the traditional like box underneath your TV, but be totally different in what it can do, what advantages it has, right? PC level, right? But the other rumor was that they were working on a Series S type of smaller console that would be on the go, right? Not your traditional handheld like your Claw or your Lenovo or your Steam Deck, but one that was Switch-like, where it came with a dock, and this dock might or may not have actual working hardware. When obviously you're on the go, 1080p, you pop this bad boy in, it goes to your TV. Maybe that is something that they're doing not to step on the toes of the partners, like if they partnered up with like Alienware, to make an OEM device, or like an Asus or a Asus, right? Where those are the traditional big boys that people are going to want. So maybe they are still making a 2-tier. When she said devices, maybe that's what she meant, and the actual powerful on the go, not dockable, was the one that was canceled. We don't know. They're certainly going to tell us. But there's another point of contention here that I think that Xbox does have a massive advantage over. And that is, when you buy a game on Xbox, you can use that game everywhere. And I think that is going to be the real story for the next generation, because the way that Sarah Bond explained it was that you're going to buy a game and you're going to play it anywhere that you can, anywhere that you as the player wants. See, that's advantage Xbox, and that is a big disadvantage PlayStation, because right now, if you buy a game on PS5, let's say, for instance, it's Spider-Man 2 Remastered Part 3, you're going to have to buy that game on PC if it's released. You're not going to get dual entitlement. And that is ultimately a massive freaking problem. And I think that if Xbox continues to do with the buy one, play it all mentality or ideology, I think that besides already having this new hardware that's going to do things that the PS6 is not going to do. And look, again, I've said this before, and I want to reiterate for new people to the class. I am not suggesting that Sony is not going to release a very powerful PS6. It is probably going to be the most powerful console that platform has ever released. No one is suggesting that it's not going to be. But the problem, and I think it has been compounded based on that very weird business meeting that happened the other day that was incredibly scripted, is that they're going to be the traditional Sony that you think that they are. Meaning that this thing, whatever it's going to be, is going to be a more powerful PlayStation 5. That is ultimately what it's going to be. And you can push back all you want, but you're not going to gain ground with me. If they stay traditional, the PS6 is going to be powerful, and it's going to do things that the PS5 can't do, sure, but it's not going to be an open source box. And that is a major disadvantage for Sony. Let's get your thoughts on what Sarah Bond had to say about the future of Xbox, brother.
Well, we've talked about it, and there's so many moving parts to this. So where do I begin? It was kind of expected as far as the partnership with AMD. Like I'm not as surprised as many might be. I think there would have been a little bit more surprise if they had said, they're going to continue with the Qualcomm Snapdragon stuff like they did for the Copilot PCs. Assuming since they didn't do that, there may have been a compatibility issue as far as the emulation aspect of things. And I think that was kind of the behind the scenes thing that I was paying the most attention to moving forward, because from a handheld standpoint, those chips would have been so much better suited for a handheld device, considering battery life and whatnot. But considering that, the PCs, those same Copilot laptop PCs have problems with some games anti-cheat because of the emulation aspect. And then there are certain apps that don't emulate well on that device. I'm kind of glad that they didn't go that route, because then that's them once again fighting an uphill battle with developers and such, getting them on board, much like they've had to do with some retraining to some extent for the Series S programming, where the dev kit can do kind of some of the heavy lifting for them as far as downgrading or upgrading whatever they're working with. Even though the memory may not seem to their liking, it's still a capable device. But getting back to what Sarah Bond said, I think the biggest thing is we've all kind of expected moving forward that there was going to be another console. I know there have been doubters out there thinking that they were going to leave the hardware space. I figure even as a worst case scenario, they were at least one more gen committed. But like somebody put it greatly, these past few weeks, it may have been K Mega, I'm not sure who, but it's like if they survive the Xbox One generation, what makes you think after the series generation they're going to leave the hardware space? Like that was probably their most brutal lesson in the game. And if they didn't leave after that, I think they're going to stick to it until there's pretty much nothing left as far as sales on hardware aspect. But I think the way that they're moving now, where there is this devices path. Remember, when they mentioned Scarlet, there was rumors of the two consoles, the Lockhart and the Scorpio. It wasn't Scorpio. I forget what they named the X at that time, but people were saying, oh, well, the Lockhart's canceled. Remember, there was a whole months of things saying that other device was canceled, and then lo and behold, it wasn't. So I like what Hargate was saying as far as they probably put it on hold so it doesn't interfere with the path of their partners. And we've seen the whole partner thing where it came to even the expansion cards and how that took a little over a year before other competing brands were allowed or licensed to make those. So given some of the stuff that we've heard whispers on where, sure, the Xbox Ally has this unique UI, but what about those that already have a Asus ROG Ally? Will they ever get access to it? And it sounds like maybe a year down the road or so that software will be more widespread. And I think they're going to have to speed that up as soon as they can or get it as close to that 1 year mark if that's in the contract with Asus, because Steam is not holding back. Like they're already on the Legion Go S and they're making software as we speak that can be installed on a ROG Ally or an MSI Claw, so you can emulate that same Legion Go S experience or the same Steam Deck experience. But all of that said, I do think that there will be multiple consoles. Now, will there just be one from Xbox? Possibly, and maybe they go the partner route for more powerful ones. Maybe the box that they make is Series X related, but maybe just a hair under that ultimate threshold. And then they hand the keys to a Lenovo or Asus or Alienware to make that box that might wind up being $800 or $900 under your TV that can have, PC level bells and whistles, while the one that they make that's at the 600 mark, let's say, or hopefully they can keep it at the 500 mark, but we'll see what the economy looks like. If they make that box, maybe it has 80% of the bells and whistles that you would expect from a PC standpoint. But just doesn't, deliver because, price point versus hardware type of deal. But moving forward, I think the biggest thing for us to watch is any more slip ups in the Microsoft store as far as Xbox games showing. I think the big thing that I would like to see from them sooner rather than later is anything that they've partnered or published, like things like Rise, Son of Rome, things like Dead Rising 3, and a few other ones that escape my mind right now that aren't truly first party per se. They're more of like what we used to refer to as second party. The minute that those start showing up in the PC store as a Play Anywhere title, because, hey, if they own the publishing, they're probably the easiest ones to be able to flick that switch. Because third party, we've already heard from the likes of Take-Two that they want you to buy or double dip or triple dip. People have probably bought more copies of GTA than there have been GTAs out there. But yep. That's what a lot of publishers want. They want that extra revenue. They want you to buy multiple things. And I think that's the sad, I wouldn't say sad world, but that's the mindset that Sony is kind of stuck in. And the minute that they find a way, like the cheat code around that, I think will be, their best move forward. Like they're eventually going to get to a day one PC release cadence, which to me, that makes the most sense moving forward. You don't want to have marketing twice for the same game and try to rehype a game a year, 6 months, or however long after to resell it to another platform or group of fans that may not want to bother buying a $500 or $600 console because they have a $1,500 to $3,000 or even more expensive PC in front of them that's quite capable of running that game either equal to or better. They're not going to buy that console. So having it where they're just as excited as your console base at the same time, picking that title up, I think you'll see a better result on some of these titles. Like this generation, other than some of the bigger third parties and the traditional, annual titles like your CODs and Maddens and things like that, there really haven't been the $20 million or $20 million unit sellers. Now there have been quite a few, but like I said, a lot of those are the third party where it's multi-platform. It's not that exclusive like what you used to see on, like, let's say the PS4 generation where a God of War was reaching 20 million sales. It's not doing that, whether that's the extra $10 per unit that slowed people buying it, or the fact that it's PS5 only at this point versus PS4, where half of their player base is still on that older device. Which, by the way, in that same meeting, they made mention that they're going to focus on that cross-generational aspect of things. So for the platform that believed in generations, they believe in still making stuff for multiple generations. They're not going to, abandon a half of their player base at this moment. So whatever they do, I think they could compete in a way if they make a handheld that's PS5 level while still releasing a console that's under your TV for PS6, because a lot of those titles, those first couple of years, are likely to be cross-generation. So if it's on the PS6, it'll look a little better compared to it being on the PS5 portable that actually can play games natively as opposed to streaming. I think that might be their closest thing. Plus, day and date might help. But I'm not worried about what PlayStation does. That's my exclusives box as far as for their first party. And it's been a little light outside of my Gran Turismo playtime and stuff like that. But all of those things aside, Xbox's plan moving forward, I think we should keep an eye out for their published second party, any of their older first party from Xbox One generation stuff. When we start seeing those on the PC store, which a good bit of them already are, that's when we'll start to see the momentum with our existing hardware. Because keep in mind, there are still Xbox One players that can stream series console games on that platform through xCloud. So when they go into this next generation of hardware, hopefully they also upgrade their server blades for xCloud, which I'm hoping they get to the point where it's like NVIDIA, was it GeForce Now level streaming levels, which it probably will be. I'm assuming that's also part of the partnership that they may not have touched on completely, although they did mention cloud, but that's going to be the key thing. If that improvement is going to be generational compared to like what they have now in xCloud, you can keep your older hardware for a little bit longer and still play these games in pretty decent fidelity. But I think, moving forward, this next generation, multiple devices, whether it's a under the TV box and a handheld, I think is more the possibility, because it seems like that Series S was like the perfect form factor and spec for something to be downscaled for a handheld and still look great, play great, and not have to, eat battery life type of deal. But all of that said, it's exciting times. I'm going to say now, I still plead to Xbox, start making it so we can see on our console, as far as our owned library, how many of those games are play anywhere.
Yes.
They already have it on the store. So if you go to the store on your console, or if you go to the store on the PC app, you'll be able to see what's play anywhere. But I also want to see that in the Game Pass app. So that way, hey, maybe I go ahead and buy that game that's not first party right now, knowing that it's play anywhere. So when I get my Xbox Ally X, I don't have to worry about, well, that one doesn't carry over or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that I would like to see, even though it's great that they have it listed on the store, you can see it, but I already want to see what I already own that's compatible with that play anywhere. And that will make the decision of buying that Xbox Ally X even easier, not just for me, but anybody else that might see more than half of their existing library being compatible. That'll give a warm and fuzzy comfort as far as that their library will be able to carry over and things like that. But moving forward, looking forward to that day when they can either emulate it on the new hardware or whatever the case may be. Carrying our software forward is probably the best step that we can all look forward to.
There's a lot to be said, and we're going to be continuing this conversation for the second half of the show. We're going to get to that Dr. Lisa Su video in a second. Again, it's only about a minute and 24 seconds. It's not very long, but I do want to play it for context. But before we actually get there, I do got to catch up on Super Chats. There's been quite a few of them. Elemental PO drops not one, but two $5 Super Chats. And the first one, he says, "Good morning, all. I'm addicted to Air Twister like a kid in the arcades again. I'm 50% done with the unlockables. Glad you're loving it." Yeah, brother. What a suggestion. And if I may make a suggestion to you, Elemental PO and chat, you've heard me talk about this already. Keeper's Toll. It is $5.39 right now. It is, if you are a Vampire Survivors fan, I said it jokingly, and I do mean it, because I bought it on Switch 2. I bought it on Xbox, and when I'm not playing on Xbox, I'm playing on Switch 2. It is incredible. If you are a fan of Vampire Survivors, it is liquid crack cocaine, because it's all I want to play. It's unbelievable. Keeper's Toll, and it's a $5 game. Unbelievable. And the game that Elemental PO is addicted to is on sale for $9.98. I think it is on Xbox. It's available on all the platforms. I actually might buy it on Switch too, to be honest with you, because that game is freaking phenomenal, especially if you're an old school Sega fan. But his second $5 Super Chat, he goes on to say, "I would love for Xbox to embrace a handheld platform by experimenting and making new arcade-like titles centered around cheap, bite-sized experiences." You know what? I would love to see them do that first party, but I think that is why they're so invested in the indie scene. And that's why ID at Xbox exists, because those types of experiences can live there and sell well on Xbox. And of course, if they get into Xbox Game Pass, because they're getting a bag, they can also afford to now make their next game, depending on how big that bag is, and depending on whether or not because I usually buy most of the indies just based on the fact that it's an indie dev and I kind of want to help the team. Even though if it's in Game Pass, I'll buy it, because again, I actually support the developer. Do UK now, the Broke Boy Insider drops a very generous $5 super chat, and this is a great point. He says, I love watching the fanboys try to twist this. They're saying, so it's not a traditional console, it's just a PC underneath the TV, like that's a bad thing. Yeah, I know. It's look, what I say is, don't engage. Feel sorry for these people. These are grown men and women with families, probably children, that are in these streets fighting about whether or not this box is a PC or a traditional console. Man, my God. You know what? I say this all the time, folks, and I'm not being facetious. I am in the gym 4 days a week. I take care of the house. Mrs. Boom is working. I run 5 live shows, sometimes 6. I barely have time to play games. I'm not going to waste 1 second of my day arguing. If you've noticed, I have severely pulled back from social media, not because I don't want to get into arguments with people, but I don't want to get into arguments with people. If you have a strong opinion about Xbox being dead, good for you. That's all I can say. And if you go to sleep and wake up thinking the same thing, you need a hobby. Maybe gaming isn't the one for you. I'll say that. But we also have Frederick Williams. Frederick, kind sir, nice to see you here as always. Thank you so much for a very generous $5 super chat. Frederick goes on to say, personally, excited that each platform is doing something different. It's boring when they're all the same. I mean, that's a great point. Listen, again, I am not buying a PlayStation 6 because I won't need to. I'm going to play those games on my future Xbox that's going to play everything. And I think Hargeet brought up a great point. He says there's going to, and again, folks, I know there's going to be like, whoa, just a second, Boom, the casuals don't. Here's the thing. Casual gamers do buy their games 3 a year usually, sometimes 2. And if they are PlayStation players, that's where they're going to play, right? But there is going to come a point where value proposition is going to become an issue for some. And when you can go to one place to play everything, and they have a streaming service that has games, you got to remember, folks, someone, I don't know who, I don't know when, someone is going to go and find an Xbox game like Fable that they're going to love. And they're going to say, I'm going to buy this game Fable because I remember playing it on the Xbox 360 before I moved to PlayStation, and I loved it. And they're going to see that it's going to be $80. Anyway, wait a second. $80 or this thing called Game Pass. And because you're going to be able to play pretty much everywhere, they might want to say they may invest in a handheld. They may invest in a PC. They may get the new console, especially if there's two tiers. If there is a dockable handheld, like we thought, and the rumors were that was the second SKU, maybe they invest in that because they're casuals. They don't need the $800 box. But if they get this, they can take it on the go and they can play at home, and they get everything that they were getting on their PlayStation times 10. Maybe they move over. I don't know, folks, but that is ultimately the goal. Xbox is going to give you so many avenues to play their games that you don't have to buy the $80 game. You can simply play it through your service. And even though you in the chat right now, if you're someone that doesn't think that that Xbox Game Pass is valuable, that's fine. That is your opinion. But someone else might. And listen, the world isn't getting any easier. We'll see what happens. But all I could say is that Sony is not doing themselves any favors by staying traditional, and it's gonna hurt them in a bad way. But we'll certainly see. Oscar Wheat drops a very generous $10 super chat. Oscar, great to see you here, brother. He says this: I gotcha. For everyone, if the rumors are true about the next Xbox, what can Sony possibly do to compete with that? I'm having a hard time thinking of what they could do. Again, it's a great question, and it's a great point of view. I don't know what Sony's going to do. Based on that very wacky business meeting that they did, it seems like they're going to be very traditional. And if very traditional is, hey, we're releasing the next God of War, and it's going to be awesome, and it's not going to be like God of War Ragnarok, but it's going to be more like a Castlevania type of 3 3/4 view, which I think would be amazing. But we're not releasing that on PC until 6 months later. That's going to be a problem because I know it's going to sell really well because I'm going to certainly buy it. But how many people are going to buy a 3 3/4 God of War? Is that something that the hardcore is going to buy? Probably. Is that something a casual audience member is going to buy? I don't know. You got to ask them. But being traditional is working now. Will it work later? I don't think it will. We also have Frederick Williams drops an additional very generous $5 super chat. And I actually saw this clip. And again, you know how I feel about Greg Miller. I love the dude. Had a chance to meet him in person. Very welcoming human being. He is who you thought he was. All those Greg ways and, the meetups and the chicken spots back in the days when he was hanging out with Colin on IGN. That's the real Greg Miller. Again, he's a businessman, and he's made a really good name for himself with his company. And you love to see those kind of stories. But even Greg Miller had something positive to say about Xbox. So what he had to say, thanks to Frederick Williams. Greg Miller recently said, at this point in his life, the ability to play anywhere is more important to him than trophies, ROG Ally, and Xbox Game Pass. He did say that when he was talking on, of course, one of their podcasts for Kind of Funny, and again, he talks about that. And he's a dad. He's running a big business. He doesn't have as much time as he used to, I'm sure. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a business owner. He's got to make sure people get paid. He's got to make sure that things are, everything's working. So you don't have the time. And being able to play everything in one place and, have Xbox Game Pass be your main source, even a PlayStation guy like Greg Miller is potentially going to move over. And that's really saying something. Thanks so much for the additional super chat, brother. Super appreciate that, Frederick. We also have Starfield Guy dropping a very generous £2 super chat and says the Nuremberg trial was more natural than Sony's Q&A. I mean, again, it was just so weird. It just felt it's forced. It felt fake. It felt like they would. Where did this even come from? Like, I mean, just out of nowhere. Oh, we're gonna have a business meeting. And it just sounded just weird. I don't know. I mean, go watch it for yourself, folks. I watched it, and it was okay. Simple Jack in the chat. Simple Jack. I think that might be a reference to one of my favorite films. That's a really good one. He goes on to say this after dropping a very generous $5 super chat. It sounds like the SOC will be the key. Lisa Sue made it sound like it's going to not going to be not just available for Xbox, but for PC makers while offering full backwards compatibility. And we're going to get to her video in a second where I think you're onto something there. I do think that it's going to be available for everything, and we will certainly see. Cheese is nasty in the chat. Drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says, always loved AMD, even back in the day. Never understood the hate that they got, but glad that they are working with Xbox. Yeah, I mean, they've been great for years. I never understood the hate either, but I've also never been a PC guy, so I never really paid too much attention to it. BT Maverick, we got a chance to hang out with him. Actually, have dinner one of the nights that we were hanging out in LA. Great to see you here, brother. Thank you very much for the very generous $5 super chat. He says, like I've said before on here, don't forget to collect those free Epic Game Store games. I have never played one of them, but every time I get an email that says, hey, game such and such is free, I log into my account and I just add it. And eventually all those games, which most of them I already have. So it's not like I'm going to, if I miss a game, I'm like, oh my God, I miss it, I can't buy it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You log into your account and get those games. If this free, you should take 3. I'm just saying. But he says, he says, log into your free, collect those free Epic Game Store Prime membership free games, and for good old games and Windows, great discussions. Yeah, I mean, listen, I always, I'm not a Steam customer per se. I bought a couple of things, but when they have like these massive Steam sales where they're giving you a collection of something for like $11, I buy it. I'm not gonna sit here. I've spent over $100 on collections that they had they had a Sega collection. It was like a couple of months ago. I think it was like 60 games. It was ridiculous. Oh, a lot of Genesis stuff. Am I gonna play it? Probably not, but I couldn't say no. It was too many games for too much of a cheap price. So they got me. Jay Rambert in the chat. Jay, nice to see you here, brother. He drops a very generous $5 super chat. And he says, if I was a PlayStation fan, I would be worried about the next PS6, would be able to play my PS4 or even my PS5 games. Stop worrying about it, what Xbox is doing. I mean, there are a lot of people that are really concerned for Xbox, and they're really not. They're just trolls looking to, get popular or something by, dumping on Xbox. Simple Jack drops an additional $2 super chat and says, ponies make my eyes rain, Simple Jack. Oh, my goodness. All right, so let's get to this Lisa Sue, Dr. Lisa Sue video, which I have ready to go. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to make a full screen. Okay, let me get out of here. Let me get back to the studio. Okay, so I'm going to pause this footage for a hot second. I'm going to actually remove it and then look at these beautiful men on the screen here. Let me just do a screen share so you fine folks can watch this video with us. Let me get to it. Let me open up the screen. So check this out, folks. Again, it's 1 minute, 26 seconds long, and we're gonna react to it once it's done. Okay, well, it would be nice if I actually added it to the screen. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. So, okay, now we are ready to go. Let me press play on it so you guys and gals can check it out. Here we go.
AMD and Microsoft are advancing a bold shared vision for the future of gaming, one that enables seamless gameplay across any screen, placing gamers at the center of the experience anywhere. We're so excited to be deepening our relationship with Microsoft and build on the over 2 decades of partnership, innovation, and trust. From the earliest days of the Xbox 360 to the most advanced consoles such as the Xbox Series X and S, and the recently announced ROG Xbox Ally handhelds. Moving forward, AMD will go beyond building custom chips for Xbox consoles to designing a full roadmap of gaming-optimized chips combining the power of Ryzen and Radeon for consoles, handhelds, PCs, and the cloud. And we're doing it all with backwards compatibility so gamers can access their favorite titles across platforms, delivering on a promise to both gamers and developers. Together, we are building a vibrant open ecosystem that delivers the next generation of graphics and immersive gameplay powered by AI that includes new foundational models to accelerate the state-of-the-art in rendering. From console to cloud to handheld, AMD and Microsoft are building the future of immersive gaming. We are so excited to be working with Microsoft to bring all of this tech to gamers everywhere.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll go. I see some smiles here. So obviously there's some funny stuff in the chat. We will get to some of the stuff there. But Korkenstein, look, this is again on the lines of what Sarah Bond had to say, but she goes into more depth about what they're going to do, especially when they mention AI. AI is going to be a big part of this chip. What they're going to be doing, allowing for games to be played everywhere. The strategic partnership that Sarah Bond had made mention of, reconfirmed by Lisa Su. I want to get your thoughts on this and what you are expecting from this partnership and what they're going to do moving forward into the next generation that you haven't already said.
I mean, she kind of touches on it as well, that they're going to be making different custom chips for a wide range of devices. You remember there's still Project Keystone, and even though that people took it as, oh, the whole project's canceled, no, if you read what was put out, it says that version of Keystone was canceled. I still think Xbox is doing a cloud device. It's just the most natural progression of where they're trying to get everybody everywhere, and you don't have to have a beefy, super PC or the next, super gen console. You could maybe do Project Keystone and, start playing on cloud. And especially with now them talking about that AI enhancement, that would be perfect for cloud right there. Getting, eventually, and I've said this before and I've gotten some pushback on it. That I only see consoles going another 2 generations, maybe 3 generations. It doesn't make sense for Xbox and other, manufacturers and stuff to keep spending hundreds of millions of dollars on research, development, marketing, production, manufacturing, whatever it is, all this stuff, when they can make, something like Project Keystone or start more investing in the cloud to where you don't need a traditional set-top box, to access your games. With AI and, maybe in, 20 years, it'll be pretty amazing what it can do, especially if Microsoft really believes that cloud is the future and where they want to go with it, to where you won't need a console anymore. You could have it built into your TV, have it built into your, they're already kind of doing it with the Amazon, Fire Sticks and stuff like that. Luna, there's plenty of other avenues right now where cloud is being more accessible than ever. That could also be something. But seeing this multi-year deal and hearing how they're talking about creating multiple chipsets, sounds like Xbox has plans for hardware for years to come.
Yeah.
This isn't, I know a lot of people, naysay, oh, hardware's getting out, or Xbox is getting out of the hardware business. Eventually they will. All of them will do it. Why wouldn't they? Movies, TV, games, movies, TVs, music, art, books, everything has moved to a digital only ecosystem kind of front. Or not digital only, but they've massively pushed for that way, where now you're seeing movies being taken out of Best Buy, Target, music, things like that. Why would Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo be the only holdout in video games on moving to a more digital forward ecosystem and platform? So eventually I think they will end up going there, but I think they're still going to have maybe things like handhelds, like I said, the cloud machine, possibly, to where you will still have those access. But I don't think, as far as like traditional consoles, I think those are going to be going away, probably in the next 2 or 3 gens. And I think that's what this multi-year partnership kind of is doing right now, is where they're going to have it, multi-year. That's not just like, oh, we're going to just do another console and then be done, kind of thing. Like I said, it sounds like they're setting themselves up for future generations of console development, hardware development, whatever that may be. I'm excited for it. I think, like I said, all of this, especially hearing AMD, which is massive, really supporting it and like getting excited about the future of gaming, whether it's on, like I said, PC, console, handheld, mobile. For us as gamers, the future's bright. It's amazing for us as consumers. And we're going to be eating good, whether you're on, whatever platform you choose to be on. I think gaming's never been in a better place.
You're not wrong. And, you bring up the cloud thing. Hargeet, look, we know that there's at least two pieces of hardware coming out next. And I don't want to say like lock it into next year. I think it's next year. That's just me, and I think that because it's too perfect, right? You're celebrating your 25th anniversary of the platform. You are releasing the three pillars, the trinity, if you will, in the same year: Halo, Gears, and Forza. The same three that this games industry has made fun of for years, right? Oh my God, all they got is Halo, Gears, and Forza. Xbox sucks, right? Right. That's all we've heard about for years, and now that is actually happening, and you're getting three new games, right? You're getting the Godfather of first-person shooters in regards to Halo Combat Evolved being remade from the ground up using Unreal Engine 5. And I think the reason why they haven't shown it is because they really want to impress. So they're hard at work. But, Korkenstein made mention of this cloud box. And a cloud box could be something that's a $100 device that comes with a controller. Now, we know that Keystone was a thing. It was on Phil's shelf, for crying out loud, and they deep sixed it. But maybe they don't. Maybe that's part of the overall plan where the casuals. This is what we're talking about, folks. You say, you ask the question, and it's consistently brought up, Hargeet, about how are you going to move a PlayStation player from their perch, and the chances are probably not really good. That's why Xbox decided to go third party. So you don't have to buy an Xbox, right? You don't have to buy an Xbox to play Fable or the new Halo or the new Gears. You're going to be able to play wherever you want. And that's ultimately, like, I don't give a shit personally because, again, they're not filling my coffers, so they're making money good for Microsoft. But there is a conversation to be had where you're going to be able to, they don't mind you buying games on PlayStation because they're getting 70%, and they'd rather you buy the games, but they also rather people subscribe to the service. And if the service continues to grow as much as it's grown, especially with first party, maybe what Korkenstein was saying about, the Keystone coming back. But again, is it possible? Cloud isn't where they want it to be right now. Is it better next year? Is it GeForce level 2 years from now? I don't know. I would imagine that's where they're going to want to go. But Hargeet, I want to get your thoughts on what Lisa Su had to say regarding the SoC being like a big part of what they're doing with Xbox, and this further doubling down on the strategic partnership, especially with the AI aspect, because I think that is going to be a big part of what they do.
Yeah, so I think one of the things to kind of take from here is they're making hardware for multiple platform types, right? So it's not just going to be for a handheld and a console. They mentioned laptops, right? So I think I think they're trying to make something that's going to be available to any OEM that wants to make a device that's going to be compatible with this, platform or ecosystem, as far as Xbox. And I think she did mention like the actual compatibility with older titles, right? So and that part of it, I think they're baking in as well, right? So part of that is the authentication capabilities that need to be there. And maybe they just put that right into the chip, right? Because there's the APU and then there's peripheral things around it that make everything, holistic as far as the actual console. The more you can put in one little area, the less overhead there is for other stuff, right? So if they can put everything in there, it makes it easier for any of those OEMs to just make an equivalent box, right? And it has all the capabilities you need, and it's less of a headache for them to make it. So interesting stuff. As far as the specificity of the APUs, they are mostly the same as the productivity CPUs, but they're a little bit different. There are things they kind of skimp on to make it more game focused. So we'll see what that means here. Are they going to say, hey, you can buy a productivity laptop that might perform a little less on the productivity side, but give you that extra oomph on the gaming side? That's a possibility, right? But I think that's kind of the stuff that I'm gleaning from this is they're making Xbox specific APUs that are going to be shared not just by Microsoft, but by other OEMs that are going to take advantage of it. And this is across different platforms, a desktop, a laptop, a portable handheld, an actual console device, right? So they're going to make it like everything. And that way you get choices. And I don't know how big this gets as far as how many OEMs and who's going to want to play in this. It's an interesting path and pattern to see where this goes, right? How many Windows people will adopt this model to say, cool, I can access all that stuff that existed before too. Maybe I bought some games on 360 gen and hey, they just came in. I don't have to rebuy any of that. Cool, right? That it's just an added benefit if I buy a device that is certified Xbox, right? Whatever that necessarily means, right? So we'll see how that goes. AI is going to kind of be baked. One of the problems they're running into is normally you can take the size of the components on the chip, and they usually make it smaller and smaller and smaller. Usually that gets cheaper. That didn't quite happen.
In this gen,
as they're making it smaller and smaller past where they are now. Right now they're at 6 nanometers. It's making it more expensive. And so they're like, well, can we really go that path? They could, but then you wouldn't want to buy it. It'll be really, really expensive. So they're kind of stuck with this, like, do we add more oomph by shrinking, or do we kind of add more AI and, maybe give you a bit more oomph, but not a large amount, and use AI to upscale? And I think that's kind of where things are. The PS5 Pro went up to 16, and you're like, you went to 16 when I can buy a 4090 or a 5090 that's doing 83 and I don't even know how much, like 100 T-flops, something ridiculous on a 5090, and you're going to 16. Now, like, you understand how underperforming that is versus what's available on PC. And, okay, fine, maybe most people won't buy that. Even if you get a 4070, a 4080, those are way, way more power than that. And so and again, T-flops are not the same. I get all that. That's fair. But you have to look at the equivalency and say, well, that's where they are now. And we just released the 5000 series here. We're getting a new set from AMD. You're far, far behind. 16 is kind of low. What is the next box going to be? Is it going to be in that 40 range, 30 range, 60 range, 80 range? I don't know. And that's the part they're going to run into trouble with. And that's where the AI has to come in. Unfortunately, that's kind of where things are kind of going right now, is they're going to leverage AI to upscale. They're going to leverage AI for the gaming, right? The experience itself. And that's kind of where things are pushing. When I talked to Jason, this is Jason Ronald, this is kind of the way that they're looking at it. It's going to be hard for them to push that up as far as, they're going to give you more oomph, obviously, but it's going to be hard to scale down to smaller nanometers and keep the price relevant. It has to be something in a good price range. Otherwise, that's just not going to fly. And so, they're trying to balance all that out. The AI stuff is going to be needed for that. So you're going to kind of see hardware-based, upscaling, just like they're doing with the PS5 Pro and how they do that with the NVIDIA cards now. And FSR4 is going to be doing that with the upcoming AMD cards. I think they're out now, right? So, but yeah, so that's kind of where things are going. So you should expect to see that. I don't know what the specs are going to be for the full console underneath the TV, but we already have what's coming with the ROG, right? We've seen that they've added in AI capabilities to make that graphical leap. So hopefully it works, right? We'll see how that plays out. In this case, it'll leverage FSR4 and leverage. Well, FSR4 would have to be written up to use it, because this is not the native capability. They're adding in a separate AI capability, right? So I'm assuming that AMD will update FSR4 for that. So we'll see. It's a partnership, right? That makes sense from my perspective. So I would expect them to do that. There's also AutoSR, which is what Microsoft's written, and they could leverage that as well because it's Windows, right? So we'll see what they do with it, but I think that's what you're going to see there. So the AI stuff, there's certainly experience stuff that can happen with AI, but I think that upscaling is kind of be key here. So hopefully that works out. I assume that this stuff will also be the same with a PS6. They seem to be moving towards the standard that AMD is putting together as far as the PlayStation 6 versus doing their own. At least that seems to be the stuff we're hearing from them. Instead of doing the pisser, they will move more towards a standard FSR based thing that everybody can leverage. So we'll see how that plays out on that side, but you're going to see that on this side as well. But yeah, I think the thing that to take from this is it's not just consoles. They're looking to make this available to laptops and whatever, right? So you can have mini desktops, mini PCs. They'll all probably be running the same thing, which gives you a lot of potential for interesting hardware mix, right? So you can have all sorts of variety if they're really going to partner and have other people make equivalent devices. So that sounds really cool to me. I don't know what the equivalent is from Xbox. I think Sarah put out there, hey, they're going to make their own consoles as well. And then, what they partner with will be interesting to see, right? Again, I think there might be a Windows version and then there might be a console version. And then Windows can have a console mode, but it will be fully capable of doing full productivity as well, where the console will not. And so I don't know if they merge that totally or not. We'll see. It was Corkinson, I think you were saying that the potential for another gen or two. I don't know how much further we're going to go. We're kind of getting to the point of like diminishing returns. It's going to be like we saw with PS5 to PS5 Pro. Is there a difference? Sure. But you have to break out the magnifying glass and say, well, okay, at that point, is it really, showcasing itself? All right. And at some point you have to kind of say, all right, is good enough, right? And so we do another gen. We do another one after that. It's like, well, okay, how much more are you really going to get? And we're already getting to that point where it's like getting to a more oomph is going to be so expensive that they're like, we really can't do that. So it's like, okay, what is that next gen, right? So I think the next console may be it. It may be that they do something after that, but now that they partner, that whole thing eliminates itself from a gen perspective, right? So we're used to these 7-8 year whatever generations. ROG Allies come out every year.
Yep.
So this is a new world, right? So now you'll have competition that says, hey, you know what? I made a really cool new device that runs the Xbox whatever, but it plugs in not into the like standard screen. It uses one of these X-Real glasses.
Oh,
and that's our device.
That's
right?
bonkers.
Right.
Yeah, man.
That could 100% happen. There's nothing stopping that from happening. The beauty of having it be something done by OEMs is device innovation can go up, right? It could also just be the same device over and over and over again. But what I'm hoping happens is that you start getting real device innovation where you can get some crazy ass ideas, right? And then people will just pick whatever they want, right? And hey, as long as it's got the same basic auth and all that stuff built into it to be an Xbox chip, the performance can scale as it wants to, right? You can get a newer gen version of whatever AMD's throwing out there. Cool, no problem, right? It'll just take it and use it. And if it's scalable enough, and it should be because it's using Windows code, it should just be able to take advantage of whatever your hardware is, right? So this is just going to be fun stuff to see what they do with it. So that whole gen concept might just go out the window, right? And you can just pick and choose whatever you want whenever it comes out. And it's like this specific device from MSI. Oh my God, it's the best thing. I just want to buy that, right? It's like, fair enough, right? And then maybe you wait for 3 years and you're like, oh, this thing just came up from, I don't know, let's pick Alienware. And like, this thing's awesome. I got to buy it. Okay, right? The gen thing kind of just goes away. It's more like PC. You just buy what you want to when you want to, right? You might say, I'm good for 10 years. Okay, fair enough. Or I'm good for like 1 year because I just like to buy stuff. If you're Keasante, oh, there's another thing that came out 2 weeks from now. Oh, I got to buy that too. Right? He buys everything. He just buys everything.
He
right?
really does.
It's cool. And you're like, you know what? More power to you. That's exactly it. If you have it and you can just buy it, why not? Right? It just makes it so much more fun. Right. And they're trying to make the experience the same for everybody. But you will have all your games and then you can just buy whatever you want with whatever hardware you want, whenever you want. Right. It's going to be interesting to see this shift. Right. And then the mindset change of like, oh, I'm not just stuck on this box. I can change it whenever I want to change it. How cool is that, right? So we'll see how they play it out. But this is exciting stuff. I like it. I love it.
Me too. Well, look, I'll put it this way. As a guy that's non-PC, I'm excited for this because at its core, yes, if you are a PC guy or gal, this is like for Hargeet, perfect example of that. He's incredibly excited. I'm excited at a hardware home console level. Like, I understand how to work a handheld. I have a ROG Ally. Do I use it as much? No. Did I think that it was too much PC for me? Yeah, a little bit, because there's a lot of stuff that you have to do with it that I like. As great as the Armory crate was and continues to be, I have always wanted what we're going to be getting by the end of the year, and that's you start the thing. Here's your Xbox UI, and you just go, and that's all I want. I had the same UI with the Switch. You press A couple of times, you're back at the game you were playing. Let's go. Switch 2, same thing. That's all I want. And again, it's not because I'm simple. It's because I want it simple, because I don't have enough time in a day to be worrying about certain things. I just want to play my game and go. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get your hot takes on what Lisa Su had to say. And I really think, at least for me, just listening to it, and again, that's a video that I've now watched over 10 times, just so I can grasp certain points of contention. And the thing that she said that I think is the most relevant is making chips for other devices. And I think that is the center. That is the key aspect of where they're going to go, because they're not just making, like Hargeet said, a chip for Xbox. They're making chips for Xbox and OEM developers. And I think that's the key right there, where it's going to be this one chip to rule them all, so to speak. Let's get your thoughts.
Well, the biggest thing that stands out from that, where it's going to be for not just Xbox but other devices, is going to be overall cost. So this may help keep things somewhat more reasonable. Just economies of scale. If you're just making it for Xbox, you're selling it to them for X amount of dollars, and then they have to figure out what they're going to charge per unit. But if other people are buying from that same APU bin, then you're more than likely going to have a lower overall cost. And they'll make the lower cost for ROG or Asus or Legion or MSI or whomever that wants to use those. If the next Steam Deck for Steam Deck 2 winds up using that same APU, then it helps everybody keep their costs down for these devices. Because right now, they range anywhere from the $400 range for like the lesser powerful Steam Decks to the $1,000 range and above for the Ally X and some of the other ones like the IO Neo and some of the bigger more niche but bigger or more powerful handhelds that are out there and stuff. But I think the big thing is it stands a chance of kind of like what Hargeet was saying, even what Paris said in his video, where you might have the laptops, the desktops, the other handhelds out there that are going to be interchangeable in your ecosystem, where running this Xboxified Windows 11 or maybe even Windows 12 at that point software in the background, that's going to be the unifying factor, where you can take a handheld, play it on the go, come back home. Maybe the AI chip communicates with the AI chip in the console that's under the TV to let, not just so you have to worry about cloud saves, but your exact progress. So remember how quick resume works. Like, that's one thing that they want to bring to PC. And from what I heard before, it was a Windows 12 thing that they were going to kind of work into the software. That might make it a lot easier for these devices to have their own version of quick resume and work within your console or the Xbox ecosystem in general, which that way you don't have to worry about corruption of saves or progress and such, where it's able to tell by communicating with the other devices you own, whether it's on the same Wi-Fi or maybe at distance, through Wi-Fi still or something along those lines, where, hey, they left off where they were hiding behind this piece of cover, and then it picks up right from where you were behind that piece of cover. Hopefully it's not a live service game where they already, killed your paused player, but like if it's something where you can actually pause the game kind of thing, and the equivalent of picking up exactly where you left off outside of the consoles, I think would be a huge, huge plus as far as the overall Xbox ecosystem. But I think looking at AMD, they're making more headwind or more, I guess a little bit more market share into the GPU space, since NVIDIA, while great at GPUs, seems to not be as interested in that. They're more interested in, enterprise and AI chips and stuff like that. So that this gives AMD a lot more leeway, both for the home PC market to grow, as well as, with the console market, because they're more than likely going to also partner up with Sony for their next device. Nintendo's the only one that went with NVIDIA, but they went with like a generationally older chipset and stuff like that. But looking at what Lisa Su said, I think she sees the benefit of working with Xbox, and because they are the quintessential software provider for PC, and that's where they want to make their most of their money outside of enterprise, it makes sense to partner with them, looking at future Windows devices, like we've said, laptops, handhelds, desktop PCs that can be easily converted into Xbox mode, like Hargeet said, gaming rigs. I think that's the step forward. But also on the flip side of things, remember, Xbox tends to take those same chips that they would use for their consoles and puts those in server blades. So for the cloud aspect of things, this should be an uplift of everything that we see with xCloud. Like, I know a lot of people are like, xCloud sucks and stuff. Depending on your internet, your mileage may vary. xCloud seems to work well, but I have gig up and gig down for my internet service, and most of my stuff is wired. So it all depends on your actual infrastructure at that point. But if they can improve the chips and stuff, especially if AI is to do some of the uplift as far as whether it's resolution, like what Hargeet was saying, I think that would help not only the look, but also the performance aspect to be more on par, if not better, than what a GeForce Now is doing as far as in the cloud. So all of this being said, moving forward, cloud is going to be a bigger part, whether it's, streaming or just the fact of having something that can call to, for assets or rendering and do some of the heavier lifting on, let's say, a less powerful device. Let's say, Xbox is able to release, a year or two after the main console box, a handheld that can still be on that same gen, a little less powerful, like a Switch 2, until you dock it for under the $500 range. That allows it to call to the cloud for, let's say, some of the, DLS or more FSR scaled or like rendering stuff. I think that would be and also a win for entry level aspects of things. But overall, this partnership, the biggest takeaways is look forward to your current hardware or current software working well across devices, and for future software to probably look even better than what you can expect at this point. The AI stuff, outside of upscaling, still trying to figure out if there's any other benefits other than possibly aiding in quick resume or other features that we saw this gen on the series consoles that could, expand to other devices within that ecosystem. I hope that's the path they go, as opposed to the AI being used to recommend the next game after, playing, stuff on Game Pass or whatever game I purchase. Oh, you may like to buy these other games. I don't want to see that use of AI, although it's probably going to be inevitable to some extent. But if it makes it so quick resume is, more widespread on anything in the PC space as well as Xbox, if, some of the streaming services or the xCloud itself is improved, that would be awesome as well. But kind of looking forward to when they finally announce it. If it's the Game Awards this year, that would be awesome. But really want to see that like Series X moment like they did at the Game Awards. What was that, back in 2019 or so? Hopefully we get that this year for a holiday release next year. Still fingers crossed, no definitives, but it seems like that's what they're gearing for. It seems like all the stars are lining up for that 25th anniversary. What better way to have your launch lineup? That it feels like some people were saying that, hey, maybe they withheld stuff from this most recent showcase. We know that they got 30 plus studios, and each of them have 2+ teams in some cases. So they're probably working on having that stellar launch lineup for the next hardware as well, not just to satisfy us existing console owners for 26, which will probably be a banner year anyway, but on top of that, with new hardware, having those extra pieces of candy to really show off what the hardware capabilities are, but yet still look great on current hardware, I think is what they're lining up to do. And AMD is a great partner in that. It's a much more affordable approach than working with NVIDIA. And like I said earlier about the Qualcomm with the Snapdragon stuff, it seems like they tried it and couldn't get all the bugs or kinks worked out that would have made it, a seamless transition, going into the next generation. So looking forward to AMD. They've worked well with them for years, continue to work well with them. More than likely an evolution of the same coding, the x86 aspect of stuff. So it should be easy for devs to, pick up from where they left off in the next generation. Hopefully we'll just see, more memory or more compute units available like they always, ask about, but still, push for like this baseline, like we've kind of asked and received on a majority of games or a lot of games, a baseline of 60 frames, but with almost like quality visuals, combined kind of thing, and make that more of the norm next generation moving forward. And maybe we see some 240, FPS games or something like that. But, just every way you look at, looking forward to what this partnership delivers, over the next few years.
Great points all around, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to do it for us here. Again, I think that if you just look at the playing field and who is advancing the future of tech, who's advancing the future of home console and gaming on the go, it is Xbox. And I think it is very exciting to be a part of this. I think that we're all going to see or at least take a glimpse of what handheld gaming and Xbox at its core is going to look like this fall, because that is the rumor. October is when this device is supposed to release from Asus. And I'm very much looking forward to getting it. I am going to be buying the X version of it, which is rumored to be almost 900 pounds in the UK, which I believe is about 800 here in the US. We will certainly see. Again, those are just rumors, folks. But this thing is going to be expensive. And again, maybe it's going to price some people out. And I'm sorry that if it does, but I'm definitely getting the X version because it's going to be the one that I want. And it's going to do everything that I want for handheld gaming. And it's going to be basically an Xbox in my hand, which is exactly what I'm looking for. We have 2 super chats, and we'll get everyone out of here. We have Rebound Media. Thank you so much for being here. And, of course, thank you so much for the very generous $2 super chat. Rebound says, just wanted to send some love. Well, thank you so much for that, Rebrand. We certainly appreciate the generosity. Lastly, our good brother, Z Black Rider, drops a very generous $5 Canada or Canadian. He says, let's try the 6 Apis every other year for world domination. I mean, look, I just like what Xbox is doing. I just found that, based on what Sony had to say, to be very, very by the numbers. I know that Xbox is in third place. I know that their hardware isn't selling, but I do think that is old news. I think we're well aware of that being the situation, and they are not making traditional hardware because they know that they can. I think PlayStation is making traditional hardware because they can. And I don't know if that is ultimately going to be a deterrent for them moving forward, because the PlayStation 6 is going to sell. The question is, how much is it going to be? And are people going to continue to buy just another PlayStation when you do have an Xbox or Xbox or OEM Xbox devices that does everything, include play PlayStation games? Because PlayStation may not be there now, but they're going to get to a point where they're going to have no choice but to release a game either day and date or damn close to it. But, Hargeet, I know you got a meeting, brother. We got to get you on out of here. Sell the brand. Where can people potentially buy your book that you wrote last year called Emergence? Where could also people subscribe to your YouTube channel? And more importantly, if they want to reach out to you, they can do that through Xbox or Discord. Tell them how they can go about doing that.
Sure. So yeah, if anybody wants to pick up my book, it's shop.shiny.us. Check out my channel, Hargeet Shiny One. I have some of the stuff that we'll be adding more of the community fan fest stuff on there, but there's already the pre-show up there. And then yeah, we'll add more content there. And I'll be on tonight with C Money and Doodle with Night Shift on Point for Gamers. And tomorrow we're not doing Fonz's show. He's got some family commitment stuff going on. So we're skipping to this week. Next will be Web Dave after that, 7 p.m. US Eastern. Check out that. And then we'll be back next week with Primetime Gaming on Wednesday. See what's going on with more fun news. I'm sure there'll be more things coming out.
Yes, and shout out once again to Z Black Writer. He says he meant what he meant is APUs. I because it was lowercase, I didn't know that's what it meant. But thank you so much for the clarification, Z Black Writer. We love you, brother. Super appreciate you always being here. And Hargeet, listen, brother. Again, you're not normally here on Fridays. We definitely appreciate you taking the time to drop your knowledge. Because again, folks, this is what I love being a host. Is I get to surround myself with people that really, really know the business. And well, everyone on this panel knows it a hell of a lot more than I do. So it's great to hang out with them and talk shop. So Hargeet, brother, have a great weekend. Thanks so much for joining us. And we will see you on Wednesday. We'll see what craziness happens to be dropping from now to then. I'm sure there's going to be a lot to get into. But Kevin Sanchez, a.k.a. Korkenstein, and I was going to say the best beard in the business, but you have shaved it off, sir. So let's sell the brand. What you got going on in Xbox land? Are we going to see a return of some of the older Xbox shows that I think are unique? And Game Pass Gumbo being one of them. That's one that is, it is surrounded by, games releasing into Game Pass and matching that with food. I think that one that might, that again, this is just my thought and theory, being that they've had a lot of releases. I don't know which way you go, but I'm sure you guys can figure out. Sell the brand, brother. Where could people check out the content, but more importantly, follow you on social media?
Yeah. Whoops. Sorry, I hit the wrong button, so I started hearing feedback in my ear. Big thank you guys to everybody. Your chat's been awesome. Hargeet, I know he already left, but always a pleasure. Got to hang out with him and talk with him. Just a valuable wealth of knowledge. Fuzzy as well. You're always a solid dude. Love hearing your takes and being here. Boom, you two and your community. Just always so giving, so loving. So thank you guys. Much love to everybody here. For me, you can find me on the Korkenstein pretty much everywhere. Whether it's Twitter, whether it's Threads, whether it's Blue Sky. I'm mostly active on Twitter. I need to start moving over to Blue Sky a little bit more and just dueling it.
It's nicer over there, man. I got to tell you, the water is nice. But I just,
it is.
God damn it, I can't do 2 social medias. I can barely do one.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, if I had like an app, I know there's probably an app somewhere that lets you dual post at the same time. I would love something like that. If anybody knows, please reach out to me. Let me know. But yeah, so Xbox Talks is actually coming back in a big way. We already did some live plays or let's plays. We did some shorts. We're starting to move in. Like that's where most of my focus kind of has been redirected to. Big, actually, as we were doing this podcast, you guys are first to hear it. The altars nice. I got a code from Terminals a while back. That's where I did most of my content creation this last week. But with that, 11-Bit Studios, I reached out and we are getting the game director and lead producer to do an AMA with us on the Xbox subreddit.
Nice, dude.
This is happening next week. It'll be 4 p.m. their time in Poland, which is 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that will be on Thursday, the 26th. So please, guys, come check it out.
That's awesome, brother.
Yeah, they're really cool people. An amazing game. If you've played it, you already know it. It's one of a kind. And yeah, I can't wait for that. As far as Game Pass Gumbo, Gold's been kind of our co-host. He's been kind of championing that, doing some shorts. I don't know when we're going to be able to get a podcast going. Hopefully soon. But yeah, it's like I said, there's so much coming out. We have a wealth of content here. So thank you guys for following us as always. Love y'all.
Well, we love you. We love you back, brother. And thank you so much for being a part of it. And again, congratulations. At the altars, again, I've heard from many people. I downloaded it. I just haven't had an opportunity to play it. I heard that it's so unique and that the gaming world needs more games like that. As a matter of fact, I've even heard some talk that if it wasn't for Expedition 33 being where it is and who it is, this could possibly be one of those sneak game of the year contender conversations because of its uniqueness. And I cannot wait to play it. I'm very much looking forward to it. The only complaint I heard is that when you're out walking around, you kind of wish there was something to shoot. But again, other than that, that's fine. But Vladimir Belvedere, let's sell the brand, brother. But of course, I know we're focusing on the missus. Let's sell her brand. Talk about where they can tune into Fright Night with Ferocious Fee.
Oh, as always, love being on here with you, Boom, as well as you, Korkenstein. Shout out to Hargeet Chani. I know he had to go early and all, but always great doing podcasts with him as well. My voice is starting to crack up a little bit, but always appreciate interacting with everybody in the chat. Love your guys' takes and the support you guys provide for us and stuff. Don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to put the links for both my YouTube channel and my wife's YouTube channel in the chat.
Nice.
When it comes to Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, 6 p.m. tonight, we're going to be discussing the first Scream movie. Presto is a huge fan of the Scream franchise, and I'm up there as well. But we're going to be discussing some of the ins and outs of the first movie, some of the quirkiness of it, and I guess some of the foreshadowing for some of the later movies in that series and stuff like that. So don't forget, check us out. Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, 6 p.m. tonight on YouTube. Hope you can be in the chat and join us. But as always, look forward to seeing you guys right back here, same channel at 12 noon for Xbox Lunch Break Special next week on Monday. Hope to see you guys there.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. Hargeet, thank you for popping in as you did. And of course, chat, thank you so much for hanging out. Well over 500 people on a Friday morning. Glad that you enjoyed the content. If you did, hit the like button before getting on out of here. If you're feeling super generous, share this out on the socials. Let people know about Double Barrel Gaming as we hunt for the next big kill, if you will. And that is 17K. And speaking of kill, did anyone see Killer of Killers? That is freaking amazing. It's a Predator film. It is an anthology. It is done in Unreal Engine 5.3, I believe, is what they made it on. And it looks amazing. And my God, does it have connections to the Hulu film Prey, which Mrs. Boom and I just rewatched the other day. What a great film. And that director, as well as the director that released, that made the Alien Romulus, are trying to get together to co-direct an Aliens versus Predator film. Yes, freaking please. I will take it. But of course, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, all of the super chats, channel member chats, and gifted subs, we do greatly appreciate it. Again, our first big giveaway of 2025 is going to come in the form of Christmas in July. We do it every year. We're looking to do it at the third week of the month. We are going to have a total of 10 prizes, 2 grand prizes, and 8 other prizes. They're all going to be physical, folks. So even the gift cards are going to be sent via this package. We will work with the people that if anyone wins that live outside of the country, we will try and get those packages to you depending on how much it costs, because obviously everything is super expensive. So we will work with you. But again, that's something we're going to be going into more detail in the coming weeks. And we'll explain what the total prizes are. I'm working with Ben Kenobi, who will be supplying some of the coins that will be added to these prize packs. And those coins will be randomized. We're not going to tell you what's in the prize pack. You'll get it when you get it, and you'll see what's in there. Outside of a gift card, we don't know what the monetary value is going to be right now, because we got to pay for that stuff. So we're playing with the numbers, so to speak. But of course, Mrs. Boom and I want to wish everyone a happy weekend. Hopefully you enjoy gaming on whatever consoles you enjoy gaming on. And of course, we're going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day will be important to you. And that's something that my dad told us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.